Hello! I think you can tell from my rosy cheeks and my general demeanour that I'm feeling an awful lot better than I did yesterday. I think yesterday was my kind of lowest point, I'm hoping, touch wood. And today I'm feeling a little bit more upbeat and a bit more sort of definitely on the mend. I think I've passed that hurdle of absolute awfulness. I think there's a lesson to be learnt here actually, because I have always enjoyed, not always, because I used to be totally teetotal. I never used to drink alcohol at all. And I always was the person that was the designated driver. I could probably have one glass of wine and that would last me a month. And that was until I had my daughter, my third child, and she's 20 now. And in my third trimester, at the very, very end of my pregnancy, I just really fancied an ice cold fizzy lager, which is really strange because I don't even like beer. I don't drink lager, I don't like beer, never have, still don't. But I really fancied it, and I don't know whether it was the yeast or the oats or the yeast or the barley or whatever it is that they put in to that, but maybe there's something in there that I was craving, so I had that. And then after that, and she was my third child, and I think after having had her and lots of other stuff that was going on as well, I used to get the children in bed, and my reward at the end of the evening, at the end of a very extremely hectic and busy day, would be a glass of wine, a glass of white wine, cold white wine, sometimes with ice in it, sometimes a spritzer with some fizzy water. But I always quite look forward to that at the end of the day. And that kind of became a habit for a long time. And then I didn't drink every night, but I certainly drank 5 nights out of 7. And then just one glass, and then maybe sometimes 2. And then when I was going through my divorce, it would probably most likely be 2 glasses of wine. And then with my mum and everything that was happening with my mum, I just really started to enjoy having a whiskey in the evening. So that is a very slippery, dangerous slope. So I enjoyed having a whiskey, and I call it a little snifter. And I didn't have the wine, I just had the whiskey, but maybe I had 2 whiskies in the winter, sometimes 3 whiskies, and that's not good, especially if you're on your own. And I wouldn't say that I ever have ever had a problem with alcohol at all, because I can kind of take it or leave it. For me, it's very much a kind of habit thing. So I decided that when I went on this Mounjaro jab, I would stop drinking alcohol. And actually, the jab made me absolutely not even feel like having a glass of wine or whiskey or anything in the evening. In fact, I'd already stopped drinking whiskey about 2 or 3 weeks before I started taking it. So it's probably been about 3 months now that I hadn't had whiskey, until my friends came from America and they went up to Scotland, and they loved travelling around Scotland. And the husband of my friends, my 2 friends, husband and wife, he loves a whiskey. So he bought some delicious whiskey. And on their last night, I had a few people over for drinks, and he opened this whiskey. And I stayed up until about 2 a.m. This was on Saturday night, and finished off the bottle of whiskey with him, which was probably about half a bottle of whiskey left. So it was probably, quite a few whiskies. And I hadn't drunk whiskey for, as I said, 2 or 3 months, probably like 3 months before that. And do you know what? I think that absolutely was like drinking poison for me. I think I've been trying to work out, why did I feel so wiped out on Saturday? And that was because probably I was hungover, as well as not feeling very well. And then the fact that I hadn't drunk whiskey for such a long time, the fact that I probably shouldn't be drinking it, and it really made me think, actually, I'm not going to try not to ever touch it again, because I think it's just like my poison. I think it's like my poisonous thing. It's like my nemesis. It's like the thing which really, I kind of really enjoy 1 or 2, but if you have 4 or 5, And I actually think it is like drinking poison, even though it's very enjoyable. I think it's best not to touch it. So I've decided I'm not going to touch it anymore. So yeah, watch this space, because I'm sure that had a really adverse effect. And I think that, what is it they say about hangxiety? If you have a hangover, and it sometimes brings up anxiety. So I think all of those sort of dark and nasty thoughts, and all of those like anxious things that I was feeling, and feeling overwhelmed, and all of those things It was probably to do with a kind of residual hangover that lasted a few days because I was so not used to drinking alcohol like that. And yeah, and I absolutely think it's a really good lesson to learn. When I look back and I think I've been feeling so great over the last few months and I haven't been drinking. Like I've been drinking like 2% of what I was drinking before, which is hardly anything at all. The occasional glass of wine. That's probably the best way for me to be. And I think the reason that I was a total teetotaler back then in the day, before I had my daughter, was because I never really enjoyed alcohol and it never agreed with me. I hated that feeling of woo, and I hated the sort of feeling nauseous, and I just used to just not go there. Same with drugs. I'm not into that at all. So lesson learned, I think. And this is the first time I've ever shared that with anybody. I think it's really interesting. I mean, I do think that things like, I gave up smoking. I only used to smoke like 2 cigarettes a day. I gave up smoking when I was about 20 because I thought this is really pointless and it's horrible and disgusting and stinks. And then when I started going through my divorce, I was with my girlfriend Pandora, and we were sort of supporting each other really. We used to have the occasional puff of a cigarette, but it was always a menthol cigarette. It was never like a proper cigarette because I can't stand the taste of it and I can't stand the smell of smoke. And then I just stopped, just like that, after a couple of years of having, very occasionally, we might share a cigarette once a week. I thought, what's the point of this? So I stopped that, and I think it's a bit the same with alcohol. I think it's like, it's a habit and it becomes a kind of crutch. And then I think when you get to the point where you're drinking every day, or you're looking forward to a drink, or you're looking forward to a large whiskey at the end of the day, I think it's probably time to just like break the habit, because it can be, first of all, a very damaging habit because it can get out of control. It can be a very expensive habit because it is expensive to buy decent, nice alcohol, like it is the same with nice, decent food. It's expensive. And actually, it means you can't drive home after a dinner party, and I'm on my own, so I don't have a co-pilot driver. So, and I would never. My worst nightmare would be to lose my license, and I would never drink and drive. So, obviously, so I've never in the history of my life ever done that, and I would never want to. Obviously, I mean that would be horrendous. So I have to be very watchful and very careful of all of those things, and I think that, whilst it's lovely to responsibly enjoy a glass of really good wine or around a table with friends or whatever, actually, if you know that there's something which is your kind of nemesis, your sort of poison, like I think it is with spirits for me, probably all spirits actually, which I enjoy. I enjoy a gin and tonic and things like that. Then I think for me, I ought to really kind of rule them out, which is very sad, but it's probably very good for my health. So back on the wagon, I say. And that's a good thing. Obviously, I haven't had any whiskey since Saturday, and I cannot see myself fancying a whiskey in the near future either. So let's just hope that I don't kind of go back there. So I think I feel good that I've cleared out my system. It's all gone now, and I'm feeling a lot better. And my leg's actually looking a lot better today as well, which is really amazing news. It's just really reassuring to know that I can see some healing actually happening after it sort of got worse before it kind of is hopefully getting better. Anyway, there we go. Those are just my thoughts. I know that probably loads of people out there have had problems with alcohol and alcohol addiction and other kinds of addiction. And I know that there are lots and lots of very good places like Alcoholics Anonymous and different resources that you can access. Fortunately, I've never had to do that, and I never will have to do that. And I just hope that you guys, if you do need to address your alcohol intake, I can assure you I do feel a lot better, a lot more clear-headed without it. And also, a lot less puffy and just, much better sleep at night. I think whilst it can sort of quieten and make you feel good and relaxed while you're drinking it, it actually, not necessarily quieten, but I mean just, if you're having a whiskey quietly on your own, it's quite nice and relaxing. But actually, the consequences are that you have this interrupted sleep and can have this kind of hangxiety thing if you drink too much, where you feel very confused and befuddled and anxious and just in a bit of a funk, really. But anyway, here I am. I'm back. Nice to see you. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why I was feeling a bit ugh. Anyway. Oh, and also, just to say that I've got news about my little puppy, and he's not going to be seen by the vet until next Thursday. So that's like another week almost, which is probably a good thing because it means he'll be a little bit older. Hopefully I won't have this horrible plaster on my leg and I'll be able to run around after him better as long as he gets a clean bill of health. And we can kind of address all the issues then, if there are any issues. I have to carefully rethink whether I have him or whether I have to choose another option. But I'm not going to try not to worry about it and hope that everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. Hopefully university will be there to help sort that one out for me. Please, please, please make it the best outcome for everybody. All right then, I'm going to say goodbye to you and lots and lots of love, and I hope you have a good day too. And I'd love to hear about your alcohol stories. I know that some of you have probably really been there and back, and my love goes out to you. Lots of love. Bye bye.